Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mike with Team Dragon Kayak Fishing Videos. I just wanted to give you guys a very brief pre-video before I go into the Strictly Drummin. I know I made a preamble and I made a short video of the type of setups that I'm going to be using out there on Maumee River. Now, again, time of year, time frame wise, this is about June, May, June, and the freshwater drum are on their way to spawn. So they're coming up river, getting ready to lay their eggs and do what they do in the spring, like many other species. So basically, I went out there and I scouted this area where the Maumee River turns into an oxbow and feeds into a tributary. And essentially, what I found was an area where the contours of the bottom go from mud to rock, and it also changes depth. So there's a variable there that is great because it goes from 2 to 3 feet all the way to a deep pocket that runs maybe 200 to 300 yards in 10 to 12 foot of water, and then comes back up to about 3 feet or so and runs into the tributary. So there's a lot of fish held up in this general area. And I went out and tried a different presentation, and I was using the Mr. Twister 3-inch grub, primarily. They call it a milk truce color, which is mixed between kind of a white and a chartreuse, or a pearl and chartreuse. And then I took a trip to Bass Pro and picked up these little swim minnows. The Bass Pro makes these minnows. They're a walleye model, but they're a swim minnow. And I put those on there and cast it out there on an 1/8 ounce jig head with a beetle spin presentation, one on the bottom, and then a tandem self single hook without a beetle spin on the top. So those colors are primarily pearl and chartreuse, but you'll see on the video what I was throwing. And these freshwater drum are hands down probably one of my favorite freshwater species to target, and since I've had the opportunity to actually fish for them. And these fish just went absolutely wild out there on the water. And I tried my best to put a collage of video, for you guys. And the thing is I had difficulty making it because there's so many fish that I caught. There's cast. Sometimes in a 5-minute video, I might catch 4 fish. And these fish were going absolutely wild. And they were stacked in the river. So just stay tuned. Subscribe. If you guys have any questions or any comments about Maumee River fishing or Lake Erie or in the Western Bay, just send them in the message box, or just write a comment below. Alright, this is Mike with Team Dragon. Hope you enjoy the video. Alright, so I arrived at my destination, and essentially I'm going to be working this bank for the duration of the morning/afternoon. and going on to evening. And basically, here's my first fish. And I talked about throwing that bucktail jig and the problem with it. And I noticed that I was constantly picking off a lot of algae because it was starting to roll from upstream as the water temperature started to increase. But right here, this is that deep pocket I was talking about, where it's a steep bank that rolls into a relatively deeper channel. And to my right, off camera, there's actually a couple islands, and you can see one of them in the distance there, right about the 1 o'clock position off the bow of my kayak. There's a small island, and there's also a boat up ahead about 300 yards. And that's primarily where I'm going to start to target these fish. Now, a lot of anglers are working the waters for white bass right now, and they're using either minnows or very small presentation jigs, like a 2-inch Mr. Twister. Um, However, I'm obviously fishing for Kayak Wars, and I'm trying to get into some larger fish. But here soon, after I unhook this whisker lip, I've decided that I'm going to switch over to these Mr. Twister grubs, and it's going to be game on from there on out.
He'd get his behind over here, then maybe we'd be able to settle our differences. But instead, old hello, 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 hello. Hey, what's up?
When you're catching these drum, you have to really make sure that you revive them properly. I'm not sure why it is that this particular species of fish takes longer and builds up lactic acid as at such a fast rate. But I have noticed that after battling them, especially the larger fish, they tend to float upside down for quite some time. So it's important that if you do catch a freshwater drum and he's 3, 4 pounds or greater, to make sure that he's fully revived and returns to the water safely.
Another solid fish.
So you'll notice me pop out the bucktail jig there, and I'm fishing with just a traditional shad colored jig. Another color that's really good is either a chartreuse and white or a blaze orange, chartreuse, and red. Really, when it comes to targeting these drum, I haven't found a color that they are not tuned to. I have caught them with black skirt bucktails, bright orange, every color imaginable. I don't think I've caught one on blue, however.
Oh man, talk about water.
I have noticed that I try to stick to colors that are more visible. So your whites and your brighter colors, your chartreuse, your lime greens, yellows, gold, brown, bright brown like a canary yellow, Those colors seem to do very well, especially the canary yellow with a brown top with some silver tinsel. That seemed to be the ticket on a variety of species, to include larger carp for some reason. Really like that color. So here's that swimming minnow made by Bass Pro Shop, and it's a series called the Walleye Angler. Pick them up. It's a pearl. I believe the color's pearl, and you can see me fishing with it. Again, it's a beetle spin on an 1/8 ounce with a number 2 blade, custom blade by Netcraft. You can see that it's colored, kind of a bronze gold fish colored side with a red eye on it. And then I have another swim minnow on top about 10 to 12 inches above that. And I'm just casting and retrieving real slow. And these fish are hitting it like the opposite spectrum of a magnet. It's pretty impressive, and the fish were just really, the fish bite was just really hot, you know. And with the size of the fish, and the numbers that were in the river, it was just an absolute tremendous day, and one to certainly remember in my lifetime of fishing. Another key component to using the beetle spin, regardless of if it's in a tandem presentation or in a single, I like to always cast it out and then let it drop to the bottom, and then use a slow retrieve back to the vessel. And regardless of the species that I'm targeting, whether it be crappie or largemouth bass, I have noticed on a pretty consistent pattern that I catch larger fish that way. Um, Now, because these freshwater drum are probably schooled up and staging in the area, of course, you know, not every fish is going to be a monster. But I can recall, and reflecting on how I'm using the beetle spin, is that I always let it drop to the bottom and then I use a slow retrieve. In this case, I'm not really doing that. However, I have done it on slower days and I've caught larger fish consistently. So, might be something that you want to try out. This big female was just full of eggs, and man did she fight. This pretty much sums up the Strictly Drummin episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys took away something from the tips and tactics that I had to offer. And don't be afraid to target these species if you're ever up north in a river such as Ohio or in a big lake such as Lake Erie. They're a top contender on my freshwater fish list, and I hope that you guys have luck out there on the water. This is Mike with Team Dragon. Be safe, tight lines, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, shoot them in the inbox or comment below.